come on, she's so loud every night," my husband blurted out as I was trying to console our crying newborn in the living room. He came from our bedroom, his voice raised way too high. His outburst made our daughter's cries even louder. Keeping my cool, I said, "Why would you say that? Babies cry. It's the only way she knows how to communicate."
"I don't care. I'm beat and her crying keeps me up all night."
"She's just a baby. She doesn't know any better."
Always with the excuses. As her mom, can't you do something?
Are you serious right now? I was beyond frustrated with him. Ignoring how upset I was, he went on.
"You're just making everything harder. If you're going to be like this, just take Sarah and go."
At that, any warmth I had for him froze solid. I thought, is this even worth it anymore? I replied coldly, "Fine then, two can play this game. Careful what you wish for." I'm Dawn, 30 years old. I've got a pretty standard 9-to-5 job. Right now I'm 5 months into my pregnancy. As my baby bump becomes more evident, I often get questions like, "When's your due date?" or "boy or girl?" Lucky for me, morning sickness hasn't been too rough, so I've managed to keep up with work. As times go on, my job's gotten busier. There were moments when the ups and downs of my job were a lot to handle, but I've pushed through, especially for the sake of our upcoming little one. Financial stability for the baby has always been top of mind. Another reason I've kept at it is because of my husband, Ron. We tied the knot 2 years ago. Back when we were dating, he had this tough gig at a factory. Long hours and even longer after we got married. Our quality time was minimal. One night early into our marriage, during a rare sit-down dinner, he started.
"I'm sorry, Dawn. Even though we're under the same roof now, we barely..."
I knew where this was going, and though I missed him, I knew it wasn't on him. I offered a comforting smile. "Don't worry about it. I see how hard you're grinding. I'm just grateful you're my husband." He admitted,
"The factory's struggling, and it's been rough."
"Oh, I had no idea." Lately, not only was he physically drained, but he also seemed emotionally down. His paycheck took a hit with the factory's downturn. And if that wasn't enough, a few months later, the factory shut down. I tried to lift his spirits. "Take some time off. I'm still working. We'll be all right."
"You sure about that? Feels wrong leaving everything on you."
"It's fine. We've got some savings tucked away. Use this time to rest up."
"Thanks, babe. I'll start looking for something once I've recharged."
But time passed, and he didn't. He finally settled for a janitorial job. Now, a year and a half since his factory gig ended, he's still in that role. With my maternity leave coming up, our income's about to take a hit. Our nest egg's not bottomless. He seemed thrilled about the baby, but he's made no moves job-wise. So I decided it was time for a heart-to-heart. "Ron, how's the job search going?"
"Job? I've got one right now."
"But it's just part-time. Remember when you left the factory you said you'd get a steady job to support us?"
"Well, I'm still bringing in some cash, aren't I?"
"It's just $500 though. Honestly, that doesn't even cover our groceries." Now, while it's true that Ron had a part-time gig, he was pulling in less than $1,000 a month. He said he was trying to save, so he'd hand over only $500 for our monthly bills. While I appreciated what he did give, it barely scratched the surface. I was the one covering the rent, utilities, and all our daily essentials. It wasn't like he was really pulling his weight. And yet he strutted down like he was king of the hill. It was seriously stressing me out. "You're only working part-time and don't lift a finger around here. How can you act so proud? I'm the one pregnant, working full-time and doing all the housework." When I found out I was expecting, he was over the moon, but that didn't mean he was about to help out. I took care of all the cleaning, meals, and even prepped for the baby. I was also juggling the bills, making sure we stretched every penny. He, on the other hand, would just kick back after his short work shifts. My patience with him was wearing thin. Time and time again, I'd asked him to get a full-time job, but he'd just sulk and dodge the conversation. Time flew, and before I knew it, I was in the home stretch of my pregnancy. Instead of being there for me, Ron started hitting the bars more and more. One evening, I told him, "Your baby's coming soon. Can you maybe come straight home after work?" He shot me a nasty look, slammed his drink down, and snapped.
Deal with it yourself. You've got a phone, so if something happens, just call 911.
Come on, I'm not asking for the world. Just be there when the baby comes.
Why should I change for you? I'm stressed from work too. Let me live a little.
I'm working too, you know. Why act like you're the only one struggling? I need you here when the baby arrives. He just scoffed, giving me a glare that sent chills down my spine. I barely recognized this man. He was a far cry from the man I'd fallen for. Fast forward a few months and our beautiful daughter Sarah was born. It was such a joyous moment for me. I held on to hope that Ron would step up, but my hope was misguided. After Sarah arrived, he didn't change. If anything, he got worse. A week after I came home from the hospital, he wasn't pitching in with Sarah or around the house. Instead, he'd start yelling at our baby girl.
Why do I always come home to her crying?
He'd shout, obviously tipsy from his night out. In a fit of rage, I said, "Really? You roll in late drunk, and all you can do is gripe? You don't help out, and yet you're screaming at her?"
What? Looking after the house and baby is a woman's job. You're home all the time, so deal with it.
Seriously? She's your daughter too, not just mine. How can you be this way?
Stop whining. If you have time to bicker, soothe the baby.
He popped in his earbuds, shutting the door behind him. My blood was boiling. Nights with Sarah were tough. I was running on fumes, and even when I tried all the tricks, sometimes she'd just keep crying. That night, I walked circles around the living room trying to get her to settle. Suddenly, the door to the living room flew open and Ron charged in, clearly irritated.
Come on. She's so loud every night. Can't you quiet her down for once?
Sarah wailed even louder, obviously upset by his tone. Trying to keep my cool, I told him, "Why would you say that? Babies cry. It's the only way she knows how to communicate."
I don't care. I'm beat, and her crying keeps me up all night.
She's just a baby. She doesn't know any better.
Always with the excuses. As her mom, can't you do something?
Are you serious right now? I was fuming, but bit my tongue. Just stop yelling. It's making her cry more.
What, so this is my fault now?
No, I'm saying I'm at my wit's end here. I've got work, house stuff, and I'm running on zero sleep. If you think you can do better, be my guest.
Why me? Aren't you the mom?
And you're what? Oh, right, the dad. Maybe help out once in a while? My emotions were all over the place. Anger, frustration, heartbreak. But he just shot back.
If you're not too busy playing the victim, maybe do your job as her mom. Seriously, what's your deal?
Seriously?
You're just making everything harder. If you're going to be like this, just take Sarah and go.
At that, any warmth I had for him froze solid. I thought, is this even worth it anymore? I replied coldly, "Fine then, two can play this game. Careful what you wish for."
What's that supposed to mean?
You'll see. As I strapped Sarah into her carrier, I started grabbing our things. Ron seemed taken aback but didn't stop me since he was the one who said to leave. The next morning, I loaded up the car and drove to my folks' place a short distance away. They were stunned to see me, but after hearing everything, they welcomed us with open arms. While I didn't hear a peep from Ron, life at my parents' was pretty great. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself, wondering when he would hit his breaking point. Sure enough, about 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed. It was Ron. I picked up, keeping my voice even. "Hey there." He sounded panicked.
What's the deal? I just got a notice about our rent bouncing.
Huh? Maybe you ran out of money?
That's not the problem. The rent pulls from my account, and you were supposed to send your half.
Well, that was the deal when we were living together. Last time I checked, I'm not there. I could tell he didn't see that one coming. He wasn't expecting me to stand my ground. As I tried to explain things to him, Ron's patience wore thin.
Enough. I didn't sign up for this. When did we agree to this?
Actually, you should be saying thanks instead of getting mad.
Thank you? Why would I?
You still don't get it, do you? Look, when you were out of work, I was the one footing the bills. I took care of rent and all our expenses because we shared a home. But I'm not there anymore. Connect the dots, Ron.
Hold on. So you're not going to pitch in for rent?
Bingo! If I'm not living there, why would I?
You've got to be joking. How am I going to manage?
I could tell the reality of the situation was dawning on him.
Come on, Dawn. Let's talk. I'll swing by and get you.
Talk? We've tried that. Every time I reached out, you just dumped everything on me.
I didn't intend to.
Really? After how you've acted? How can you say that?
Please, just hear me out. I'll step up. I'll help around the house, care for Sarah, and I'll find a solid job.
He sounded like he was about to break down, but it hit me. He hadn't once apologized. If we went back to how things were, we'd just end up here again. I took a deep breath. Why should I believe you now? I've tried so many times and you just brushed me off. Now that you're in a jam, you want forgiveness? You're something else.
Come on, Dawn. I love both of you.
Love? If this is your version of love, we're better off without it. You're basically that guy who only calls when he's out of cash. I'm glad Sarah and I saw your true colors before she got older. We don't need you. Keep your distance. I ended the call. A few hours later, he was at my parents' doorstep, but my dad turned him away. He refused to leave, so we called his folks, and they finally took him home. But what he did next was the last straw. He lied, saying I'd gone MIA, trying to ditch Sarah's education insurance. He even tried to fraudulently drop my life insurance. Luckily, they reached out to me and his plans crumbled. I was done. His own parents were livid. They made him draft divorce papers and send them my way. Once he lost us, they cut ties with him too. These days, he's scraping by in some beat-up apartment. And soon, he'll have to cough up child support, which isn't going to help his situation. As for me, I decided to stick with my parents for now. After talking with my job, I'll be working from home post-maternity leave. Sarah and I are thriving, and I'm forever grateful to everyone who's had our backs. For the time being, I'm focused on giving Sarah the best life possible and showing her all the love she deserves.